echoes Steiner's many references to an invisible realm that supports and sustains not only the life of plants and animals, but humanity itself. What was very visible at Plorhatch Farm on the day we filmed was a group of 9-year-olds from the Steiner Waldorf School in Brighton. Farming is one of the subjects on the curriculum for Class 3 in all Steiner schools. In charge of the dairy herd at Plorhatch is Tom Ventham.
For me, I've come into biodynamics quite late on in life. Okay, I was brought up in a very different way.
But in agriculture?
In agriculture, very much so. Brought up on a farm, and I've had a lot of inspiration from working in Africa. And it was while I was in Africa that I came across the whole biodynamic movement. And what it's done for me is really encouraged me to look within myself and within the farm, and rather than look outward. Because I think all through my life I've been sort of conditioned to look outwards and look at production and look at what's actually materially happening. Whereas what I've discovered is that if you actually look within and make sure that sits comfortably within oneself and within your heart, then everything that comes out is going to be just fine. And I think that's what the whole biodynamic movement has meant to me. It's changed me to look inwards.
So you mean you're a better farmer as a result, then?
Yeah, but I used to measure milk yields, but I don't now. It's a disaster. Because if you measure a milk yield, then you're thinking that actually that's a measure of success. It's not about milk yield, it's about the animal as a whole. And so it's changed the way I farm into a much more qualitative approach rather than a production approach.
As with all biodynamic farms, Plorhatch is farmed organically, natural feed for the animals and no pesticides or artificial fertilizers on the land. And the emphasis is on diversity, not just cows, not just raspberries. There's also a cheese-making operation at Plorhatch Farm, and as a community-supported enterprise, they have over 600 loyal and committed customers who own shares in the venture. Plorhatch's milk and yoghurt are sold in their farm shop, along with Lizzie's fruit and vegetables. I asked one of the apprentices what she made of Steiner's ideas.
They're hugely far out. And it's very difficult to actually read a book that's written by Steiner. Everybody I've met struggles with it. And even when you can manage to read the book, to accept his ideas is another challenge as well. Because, yes, some of them come across as quite loopy. And I don't think he wanted anybody to blindly accept what he was saying. I think you've got to try things out and just see if it sits well with you. And also adapt it. I think we need to be flexible as well. And yeah, feel our way through the work, you know? Do we work with the preparation, spray the fields, and also personalise it, you know, put your own love into it at the end of the day. I don't think there's any point in just like reading the book and just using it like a manual. And he had some inspiring ideas, and it's quite difficult to understand why we spray the fields with these bizarre combinations of ingredients. But you give it a try, trust it, you know, have some faith that maybe it's going to help. And then see if it works. I think we've got to be open and flexible.
To be open and flexible and to trust. A young Dutch apprentice is doing just that. For an hour he will stir this substance, which contains a preparation known as 500, cow manure that has been buried in a cow horn for 6 months over the winter, when the crystalline forces in the earth are at their strongest and therefore most receptive to cosmic influences. Through rhythmic stirring, so Steiner indicated, forces within the preparation are released into the water, which, when sprayed on the land, has a dynamic effect on the soil and therefore on plant growth. Cattle, along with pigs, sheep and poultry, are the focus at Tablehurst Farm, the sister enterprise to Plaw Hatch. Between them they farm on 700 acres, most of which are held by a land trust and not privately owned, thereby guaranteeing long-term security. Steiner frequently warned against treating land, and indeed capital and labour, as a commodity. At Tablehurst and Plaw Hatch, they grow their own feed and produce enough manure and compost to fertilise both farms. The mixture of animals, crops, fruit and vegetables enhances, it seems, the health and well-being of the farm as a whole. Peter Brown is one of the farmers at Tablehurst. On biodynamic farms, cows keep their horns, which are seen as an important sense organ, helping to give each animal an awareness of its surroundings and of its own metabolism and identity.
If a cow doesn't have its horns, it can't actually feel anything. It doesn't know who it is as an individual. And that's why most farmers take the horns off, so they can keep more animals in, but also it takes away the cow's sense of who she is. Then that cow won't mind standing so close to each other like that. But these cows, they need about 2 or 3 metres around each other. If anybody goes into that space, they don't like it at all. So they're very strong individuals. Look at Orchid here. Nobody's going to go near her. Even if we go near her, she wants to get out of the way. But that's a very nice thing. Because if she's nice and individual, she has a very good immune system because she knows who she is. She feels good about herself and she knows what she's doing. Nothing can really touch her. Nothing can go wrong with her. But if we take her horns off, it's a bit like having lobotomy. Suddenly she doesn't know who she is. Actually, she doesn't really care who she is. She's lost one of her major sense organs. And who cares? Who cares what I eat? Who cares who I stand next to? And in fact, I don't need to last very long. And that's how most of our dairy cows are today. Just like that. Where she should go on until she's about 15 years old, easily. Very strong. Never use any drugs on her, never spray any chemicals on her at all, never do anything to her. Maybe just trim her feet, and that's it. And she'll give very, very nice milk. Very strong milk, full of vitality.
Clearly, Tom's cows are not going to tolerate being herded into conditions that treat them as pure milk-producing machines. And on the subject of their horns, it had already been explained to me in India how there exists a close connection between the complex digestive system of a cow and its horns, a memory of which is still retained in the horn even after the animal is no longer alive. Hence the use of horns as receptacles for the 2 biodynamic preparations, 500 and 501. At Tablehurst Farm, the 500 preparation, known as horn manure, having been stirred rhythmically for an hour, is now sprayed on the ground in spring and will continue to be applied during the summer. In the meantime, below the ground and throughout the summer are buried another batch of horns containing powdered silica. This substance, the preparation known as 501 or horn silica, is likewise stirred and then sprayed over the growing crops to regulate their receptivity to light and thereby improve their health, quality and vitality. In a nearby field, chamomile flowers are being picked by Peter Brown and his team. Chamomile is one of 6 plants, each carrying a particular function that is specially prepared and then introduced into the compost heaps, along with nettles, oak bark, yarrow, dandelion and valerian, to enhance and regulate the process of fermentation.
Yeah, well, we're happy after these 3 months of drought, aren't we? Yeah.
A drought, yeah, oh yeah.
Even the rye behind us is not as high as it should be, is it? And that's because of the drought.
There are 12 people employed on Tablehurst Farm, plus 3 apprentices and 3 people with learning difficulties. I asked Peter Brown about the viability of biodynamic agriculture.
We're doing quite a lot of processing of products and selling direct to the customer. And that is what helps make it viable, and also gets a direct relationship with the customer and us as a group of farmers. And because we're doing the extra processing together with the farming, like we butcher the meat and sell it on the farm, and we make the wheat or the rye into flour, and we sell it to the local bakery, and that sort of doubles the price. It's ironic because, you know, there's so much, proportionately it feels like there's a lot of work goes into producing it, and then all you do is put it through the mill and you double your price. But that's what you have to do, though, to make it viable.
Driving the tractor is David Junghans. He attended a Steiner Waldorf school in his native Germany, then trained in conventional agriculture before coming to England to Emerson College to study biodynamics. I asked him what he understood by this word force, the idea that there is something invisible at work in the substances that make up the phenomenal world.
I think everyone has the experience of forces, hard forces, of love, for example, or of any kind of emotions. But you